A very good morning to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us for today's first session of the European Research Day 2020. My name is Susanne Renzo-Vaso. I'm the regional representative of Euraxis ASEAN, and I'm very pleased to welcome you to this second webinar that will introduce us to research collaborations between France and Malaysia. We have a very exciting panel with us today. I will just briefly introduce you to the four speakers that will share with us today some of the collaborations that are ongoing between France and Malaysia, and also talk a little bit about the opportunities for you to make use of the collaboration opportunities. We have with us, first of all, Dr. Angéline BLANC-SERRE. She is the Attachée for Science and Higher Education at the French Embassy in Malaysia. Good morning, Angéline.
Good morning, Suzanne.
We also have with us Dr. Jean-Paul TOUTAIN. He is Research Director at CNRS and the Regional Director of the CNRS office in ASEAN and Oceania. Professor TOUTAIN, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well, thank you.
Then our third speaker will be Dr. Marcel DJAMA. He is researcher at CIRAD, which is the Agricultural Research for Development, where he is heading the Department for Environment and Societies. Dr. DJAMA, good morning.
Good morning, Suzanne. Good morning, everyone.
And our fourth speaker today will be Professor Daniel PERRET. He is researcher at the Ecole française d'Extrême Orient, and I hope I've pronounced this correctly. Good morning, Professor PERRET.
It's correct. Good morning, Suzanne, and good morning, everybody.
It's been a while since I spoke in French, and I know you're all excited because France, of course, is such a wonderful country, and I can't wait for us to be able to travel there again. But in the meantime, I think to get us all excited, we will hear about some of the many opportunities for research collaborations between France and Malaysia. Leading us through the session today is our very own Mosley. He is working in Malaysia, and he has also been part of Euraxis in France in his previous professional life. Maybe Mosley, you quickly introduce yourself to our audience today.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mosley, also known as Yo Eng Guang. So I was also when I was doing my master's, so I had the opportunity to be recruited as one of the visa validations for Euraxis and also the International Students and Scholar Office, short form for ISO. So during the time I was inspired by the Euraxis and the services that they provide for international researchers and also students when they're coming in to do research in France, and especially in Grenoble, the region where I was working for Euraxis. So from there on, I was very inspired by all the different researchers, and their profile is very interesting and it's very fascinating. So from there on, I progressed through my professional life in educations, but also I was also very grateful to be very actively involved in Euraxis and also the professional researching community. So yeah, that's a little bit of my profile. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you so much. And of course, you'll be chairing the session today. And with this, I'll hand the floor over to you to start the session. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So before I begin, I would like to make a little reminder for everyone that this is a very interactive sessions. So if you have any question at all, you can always drop it in the question box. So then after each presenter, they will have 10 minutes to present. And after each presenter, there will be a 5-minute dedicated to Q&A. So you will have your questions to be answered during that sessions. Okay. Well, without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Dr. Angéline BLANC-SERRE. So Dr. Angéline BLANC-SERRE will talk to us about the opportunity for research collaboration with researchers and research institutions in France. Dr. Angéline, je vous en prie. I will just share your screen. You can, you will have your screen now, yes.
Thank you, Mosley. Thank you, Suzanne, for giving us the opportunity of this webinar. Good morning, everyone. Selamat pagi. Before we go into more details with the other presentation, I would like to give you a broad picture of the French the French research, hoping you will see some opportunities of collaborations. I will start with a quick overview of the public research landscape in France. So France is a leader in Europe and in terms of research and development, and 2.24% of the gross domestic product is dedicated to research. Okay. This represents about 48 billion euros of expenditures. We also have 266,700 researchers working full-time in research activities, and 62% of those researchers are working in the private sector. This reflects quite significantly the importance of the private sector in research activities. We can emphasize the strong links with the industries, because we have a lot of big companies like Sanofi, L'Oréal, Thales, or I don't know, Airbus, for example, that are also implementing research, and frequently in collaboration with public institutions. And in addition, we have more than 10,000 startups in France that are implementing research. In France, we have more than 75,000 doctoral candidates that are registered, and among them, 41% are from outside France. Finally, I would like to emphasize the fact that France is participating in numerous projects of international scope and scale. We can, for example, mention the Very Large Telescope, the European Space Agency, or the Ariane rocket family, among other projects. The French public research is particularly active, and some major achievements can be highlighted. So France is the fourth country in the world in terms of impact of publications. 53% of French scientific papers are international publications, which reflect the strong international network that can be highlighted by French researchers. France is the sixth country in the world in number of patent applications. France is the fourth country in the world in number of Nobel Prizes. I think right now we have 61 Nobel Prizes that have been awarded to French researchers. And France is the second country in the world in number of Fields medals, which is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for mathematics. If you look at the profile of the French research laboratories, you can see that research is implemented in different types of laboratories. Of course, we have universities. A lot of them are benefiting of the Investissement d'Avenir program, which is an initiative launched by the French government to develop center of excellence. This represents approximately 57 billion euros of investment. Research is also implemented in research institutes that are dedicated to research. CNRS is the biggest research institute in France and the second research center in the world. It involves more than 32,000 staff that are implementing fundamental and applied research in 1,000 laboratories around the world. But Jean-Paul will tell more about CNRS afterwards. We also have CIRAD and INRA, which are implementing agronomic research. We have INSERM implementing health and medical research. We have INRIA implementing computer science and automation. We have the Institut Pasteur, of course, that you all know. And we have the Ecole française d'Extrême-Orient that is implementing archaeology and philology, particularly in Asia. France's major research bodies operate in more than 250 locations around the world, and some of them have some antennas in Malaysia. And finally, I would like to mention that medical research is also implemented in university hospital, and with a focus on research. A French specificity are the joint research bodies. This means that a given laboratory can be affiliated to different institutions. For example, they can be affiliated to a university, but also to a CNRS, and in the same time to CERRE. This gives the possibility to share infrastructure, to share equipment, and also to provide access to different sources of funding for research laboratories. Now let's see what is the current status of the collaboration with Malaysia. The collaboration is reflected by different tools and instruments. The simplest one concerns the mobility of researchers through invitations and missions. So we have French researchers that are coming in Malaysia and Malaysian researchers that are traveling to France for spending short or long-term period in the different respective laboratories. We also have joint PhD programs that are implemented in different Malaysian and French universities. We have about 100 bilateral agreements that are signed between French and Malaysian institutions. We have 18 projects that are benefiting from the partnership Uber-Curien program essentially for mobility of researchers. And finally, we can emphasize that we have 4 joint laboratories. The thematics of collaboration are quite broad. They go from chemistry to biodiversity, including also social science, archaeology, or electricity, among other thematics. I will now discuss a little bit about the opportunity of funding for this collaboration. The French embassy has a small budget for supporting mobility, essentially, and also for allocating scholarship. For these different activities, the embassy is benefiting from the support of the Malaysian French University Center, who is also allocating some support from Campus France and from the Malaysian Ministry of Higher Education. An important program is, of course, the partnership Uber-Curien Hibiscus, which contribute to support mobility of researchers through an annual call for proposal. The French National Agency for Research regularly open calls for proposal that are accessible to international institutions. But this is another opportunity of funding. And at the European level, the different programs are interesting for multilateral projects. We have the Horizon 2020 program, which will become the Horizon Europe program in January, which gives the opportunity to receive funding for large-scale international research projects in many different thematics: health, agronomy, ICT. It's quite broad, and there are calls that are open, I will say, also on an annual basis. We also have the Marie Curie actions and the Erasmus Plus that contribute significantly to support the mobility of young researchers, but also senior researchers through different type of program. I will stop my presentation here because I would like to give more time to discuss with the specific institution. I thank you for your attention, and of course I remain available for any specific questions.
Thank you, Angéline. Thank you for your sharing session. It is very interesting. So actually, I have a questions for you, which is regarding about young researcher. You mentioned that you also support young researcher. So let's say if there's a young researcher who is first time looking to do a research in France, what advice or what approach would you advise to the young researcher to initiate the first step of having a research career?
So the first thing is to, of course, to get a PhD, because PhD is the open door to research everywhere in the world, and it does not change in France. So having a PhD is the first step. It will be very interesting to get a joint PhD, because this will give the opportunity to the young researcher to spend some time in Malaysia and also in France. And this gives also the opportunity to develop common projects and to implement a project that is of interest for both countries. So this is really the first thing I will advise to a young researcher.
Okay, thank you very much. So would you say that a student who freshly graduated with a master's degree wants to do a PhD directly in France, would that be recommendable? Would that be also advisable?
Yes, yes, of course, it's recommendable and advisable, and there are many opportunities for joint research, and or if joint research is not priority, there are a lot of opportunities in France. As mentioned, we have a lot of PhD students that are not French, that are coming from countries outside France.
Okay, thank you very much, Angéline. It is very insightful. So there you go, Angéline. Like Angéline said, there is a lot of opportunity in France. So with that being said, I will move to our second presenter. So I would like to invite Dr. Jean-Paul TOUTAIN, which he will introduce us about the CNRS, a global player in international landscape of science, technology, and innovations.
Thank you, Mosley. Good morning, everyone. So I will share my screen now. Is it okay? Can you see it now?
Yes, I just passed on the panel to you. Can you? Yes, you can see it now.
Okay. Okay. So, so I'm Jean-Paul TOUTAIN. I'm one of the 8 director of International Office of CNRS abroad, and I'm in charge of the follow-up of cooperation with ASEAN and Oceania countries. And the office is based in Singapore since 2014. To briefly introduce CNRS, I can say that it is a key global actor in the international landscape of science, technology, and innovation. And to describe CNRS in a nutshell, I think it can say that it is a main research institution in France with 32,000 staff, 1,100 research labs, and a yearly budget of 3.5 billion euro. The main objective of CNRS is to produce basic knowledge, and the organization is proud of its 22 Nobel Prize and 12 field medals, and it is also to produce applied research and engage with industrial partners through joint research units. Regarding the organization of CNRS, it is the only multidisciplinary organization, research institution in France, and it is organized in 10 institutes. Each of those institutes has its own organization and a strong autonomy, particularly in the field of research strategy and international cooperation. So the main missions of CNRS are to produce basic knowledge through multidisciplinary research and share this knowledge with the civil society. It is also to contribute to the training mainly at the PhD level through 265 doctoral schools which are managed with university. It is also to have a strong impact on society by contributing to create wealth, jobs, and startups, and to contribute finally to the French social and economic strategy. Regarding the engagement for basic science, the heart of the CNRS engagement is to explore frontier research with two main strategies. It is first to focus on emergent topics with dedicated fundings, that we have 13 of those topics, which can be, for example, quantum calculation, modeling the living world, carbon cycle, cybersecurity, and so on. And the second strategy is to tackle interdisciplinary challenges such as climate change, artificial intelligence, environment, and health. The second engagement of CNRS is toward industry. The ambition of CNRS is to have an economic, territorial, and social impact, and to contribute to bridge the gap between laboratory research and the market, and to validate concepts with industry. And our strategy is to engage with industrial partners through the development of joint research unit. We have 150 joint research unit structure in France, and some of them are operating abroad. And we have so far 4 of those joint research units in China with Solvay, in United States with Solvay also, in Japan with Saint-Gobain, in Singapore with Thales, and we are currently launching a new joint lab with an industrial company. It will be in Australia next November with a French defense group, Naval Group. So I told you that CNRS is an international player. It has developed a strategy which is based on an international, I will say, toolkit and a large network. The strategy of CNRS is to provide assistance to researchers. So it's really a bottom-up process to researchers who want to develop an international project through various collaborative tools. And these tools will enable them to engage in short-term to long-term international partnerships with different levels of commitment. And the first level you can see on the upper left of the screen is the International Emerging Actions, which supports the mobility of researchers during 2 years to launch new partnerships. You start from scratch. And we have one of those partnerships in Malaysia, for example. The second kind of bilateral program is the International Research Networks that structure and gather a large international scientific community around a common theme or a research infrastructure for 5 years. And it promotes the organization of events, workshops, seminars, thematic school, and so on. So it brings together researchers from several French and international laboratories, and several countries can be involved in only one of those networks. We have also international research projects, which have real collaborative research programs between CNRS and partner laboratories. They strengthen previously established collaboration. This means that they do not start from scratch. They need to have a previously established collaboration, and they allow to develop joint research activity, fieldwork, experiments, and supervising students. And their mandate is 5 years and can be extended once. So they can be 10 years long and project, and we have 2 of those projects, so of those programs in Malaysia. And finally, the last tool is the International Research Lab, which is by far the most mature level of organization for international cooperation. And CNRS has developed in the world 80 of those international research labs that offer very long-term perspective to the cooperation. Some of them in Japan, for example, are operating for more than 25 years. And in the ASEAN region, we have 4 of those IRLs, all of those being in Singapore, and some of them are being operating for nearly 15 years. So with this system, The global idea is to provide researchers with graduate tools to initiate, strengthen, and create really strategic long-term partnership with a strong local presence of CNRS researchers. And you can see on the map below the distribution of the 8 office of CNRS abroad and the distribution in the world of the international research laboratories. Now, regarding CNRS Malaysian cooperation, let's have a look at the conventional barometric indicators for the period 2015-2019. And we can see that if France is a 16th partner of Malaysia with 2,580 papers during those 4 years, CNRS ranks third among the different partners with around 1,500 papers. So CNRS makes 57% of the joint bilateral publication. If we consider the number of missions, we have about 274 missions per year, and our first partner in Malaysia is the University of Malaya, which accounts for 75% of our joint publications. I have a problem with my screen. Regarding the different partnerships we have with Malaysia, the first one is the international research project AFN Nat Prolab. This is an international French-Malaysian natural product laboratory, and it is working. It has been launched in 2015, and it will end its activity in 2022. And the topics is the chemistry of natural substance, and those researchers, bilateral group, makes a systematic survey of various Malaysian forests, and they operate the collection of the biodiversity. And the main partners are the University of Malaya and the Department of Chemistry, and the CNRS. This is the Institute of Chemistry of Natural Substances. And if you have a look at the key indicators, they trained already 1 PhD and 2 are currently trained. They made 50 international papers. They have trained in France 6 Malaysian researchers, for example, new mass spectrometry techniques, and they organize every year 1 international seminar. The second main program is the international research project Food, Culture and Health. It has been launched in 2016 and it should end in 2020 at the end of this year. The topic is about food studies. It studies eating out and social interactions, and is operating the Asian Food Barometer. The main partner are the Taylor's University. This is a center, the CIRAD Center for Research and Innovation in Tourism, and the joint lab between CNRS and University of Toulouse. And it is a project which has a very large dynamics, because it began in 1987 with different steps. A bachelor has been established in 1999, a master in 2005, a chair of food studies in 2012, and the research program with CNRS has been established in 2016. So it is a 37 years old partnership. And if we have a look at the key indicators, we can see that they have trained so far 4 PhD students, 2 are currently under running. They train 14 Malaysian researchers. They organize around 30 international seminars. With the academic sector, they have trained more than 268 master students, 30 international papers, grants, and they have industrial partners such as Nestlé, Danone, Ajinomoto, and so on. So we have some perspective in this program with increasing mobility of researchers and a mirror seat for a platform which is in the University of Toulouse. And to conclude, the last program is an international emerging actions that I told you it's really an emerging action. It starts from scratch. It is a 2 years program. It is in the field of ecology, evolution, and climate change between the University of Malaya, the Department of Geology, and CNRS, the University of Lyon. And we have also researchers from Malaysia who participate to several networks, CNRS networks in ASEAN in the field of paleontology and the field of ASEAN studies. So I think I finished now, and thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jean-Paul Toutain. Yep,
yes,
that's
okay.
Good. Thank you very much. So I would say that the IAE program is very, very interesting, the International Emerging Action. So I would like to know that one of the questions, how can we apply for the IAE, and what would be the procedure like in all the steps of application?
Well, for all of those programs, and also it is also the case for IAE, this is a real bottom-up process. And I think I would say it is a two-step process. The first step is that the researchers have to build a bilateral team, 2 researchers or 2 teams, one from Malaysia and one from CNRS, or let's say from France. They have also to build a research program, which is a reliable program, and then they have to decide what they will put inside the partnership. How many associated researchers, maybe 1 PhD student, maybe 1 postdoc, and so on. So they decide what they want to put in the partnership. So this is the first phase. The second phase is that the CNRS researcher, the French researcher, has to apply within its institute. I told you that CNRS is made of 10 institutes with a very large autonomy. So each institute will select programs on the basis of scientific excellence, on the basis of strategic priorities. They want to develop that kind of topic or that kind of topics, and based also on available money, of course. So it's very important for us. It's a bottom-up process. I mean, it is not the regional office, or it is not the headquarters of CNRS who decide to launch a program in this field with this country. It is a researcher who decide to apply it in its institute with a group which has been constituted, which has been built with partners.
All right, thank you very much. So for the next question, I would like to know that for PhD students in Malaysia, where if they are seeking for research attachment for maybe just 2 to 3 months, would there be any scholarship or funding for that kind of like a term of project?
Well, CNRS is not a funding agency, so CNRS will not provide scholarships. The embassy, I think, can help with its PhD program. CNRS will fund the global project, and after that, the researcher is autonomous to decide for how he will use how they will use the money for for mobility or for something else.
Okay, so CNRS is more on just the organization that provides the projects for researchers to be.
Yes, I think what is important is that I tell you CNRS is not a funding agency. On the contrary, I think that having a kind of program like that with a CNRS lab, it provides to the team a kind of label, and it allows to the team to go to call for proposal with a strong label, and it operates in a lot of countries. I see it this year, for example, in Australia, but we see it in Singapore also. The fact that researchers are part of those kind of international laboratories or programs is a very good label to go to call for proposals.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Toutain, for all the interesting insights. So also just a reminder, because we have a lot of questions also coming in, I would like to let you all know that at the end of these sessions, there will be a Q&A, general Q&A sessions where our team here will be also responding to the questions that if we couldn't go through here. So because all the Q&A session at the end of each presenter is only 5 minutes, but at the end of the presentation, there will be more time also to ask those questions, okay? All right, so with that being said, So I will move to our next speaker, Dr. Marcel JAMA. So Dr. Marcel JAMA will introduce us the transnationalization of environmental policy and in Malaysia. So Dr. JAMA, I will pass the screen to you, and you should be able to share now. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to all, and thank you to organizers for giving me this opportunity to present CIRAD. So CIRAD is a French agricultural research and international cooperation organization working for the sustainable development of tropical and Mediterranean regions. We are a French public research organization with an international vocation. We have a staff of about 1,700 researchers, staff, let's say, including 800 researchers. And our research are covering a wide range of topics related to agriculture, animal health, animal husbandry, forestry, environmental issues, and rural societies. We are working with some basic principle. The main basic principle is partnerships. We are developing long-term partnerships with academic and research organizations in tropical countries or in Mediterranean countries. And the way we develop this partnership is that we are co-constructing the scientific programs and the steering of this scientific program with our partners, mostly academic partners in different countries and other stakeholders. And for that, we have established a global network of platform in partnership for research and training. So we have more than 150 partner organizations in about 100 countries. We have about 22 of these partnership platforms for research and training all around the tropical belt, with 350 researchers who are posted or assigned abroad in foreign countries and French overseas region. And we have active portfolio of about 1,000 funded research program currently funded by different donors and agencies from the EU, the French Aid Agency, and other funding organizations. So just to have a look to these partnership platform for research and training that we are developing. We have teams working in partnership in Latin America, in Africa, in Southeast Asia, where we have this platform operating. So if we go now to what we are doing in Malaysia specifically, so Malaysia is one of the hubs that we are developing in Southeast Asia. So first, CIRAD had a long collaboration with Malaysia. Some of the institute in CIRAD were working with their Malaysian counterpart for 50 years, especially working on specific commodities like rubber, palm oil, or forestry. However, since 2011, we have developed a formal academic partnership with the University Putra Malaysia, who is our main partner, our main academic partner. And since that time, we have 2 CIRAD scientists who are posted at UPM permanently. And we are developing with our colleagues research in partnerships, academic and professional trainings, and exchanges of academic staff and students. So CIRAD is in Malaysia, but our collaboration is a two-way collaboration, because we are helping also UPM to, as our main partner, to be in France. And in 2015, for example, the University of Putra Malaysia has launched a research laboratory on sustainable tropical agriculture and food system in the international campus of Agropolis. So there is one UPM scientist who is posted there now, and his main activity is building networks with French, European, and international research communities. And he's also managing our staff exchanges program between UPM, CIRAD, but also with other French academic institutions who are especially from the Montpellier research community, who are willing to have activities here in Malaysia. So in our activities, we are also engaging with public, private, and civil society organizations. So we do research in partnership with a broad of NGOs, state agencies here in Malaysia, especially in the agricultural sector, international organization, but also transnational cooperation. So our main topics here in Malaysia for collaborate, we are dealing with regional and global issues in our research. Some, let's say, hot or burning topics in the strict sense of the term, like deforestation and haze. We are dealing with agroecology and agroforestry, rural livelihood, value chain governance, climate change mitigation, and adaptation. So these are the main portfolio and research fields that we are working here with our partners in Malaysia and broadly in Southeast Asia. We also we are also involved in building capacities through academic trainings here in Malaysia, especially at the University Putra Malaysia, but also through exchanges of postgraduate students between our Montpellier universities and research centers and Malaysia universities. We are dealing also with professional training for plantation managers, for example, or to support farmers, but also trainings and capacity buildings, empowerment for local communities and farmers through our programs that we are developing, for example, on territorial development. And we are currently also preparing a syllabus for an international master program on sustainable agriculture that CIRAD is going to launch by next year, 2021, which is a regional master involving academic partners from Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. And this program is currently funded by the French aid agency for the next 4 years. So this is the main presentation, and thank you very much for your attention. For further details, I give you you can visit our website www.cirad.fr that will present you main CIRAD activities, including the one in Southeast Asia.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jama, for the very interesting presentation about CIRAD. So I have actually one question for you. So let's say, for example, a researcher or a current PhD holder who found your research is very interesting, or the organization, the portfolio is very interesting, they would like to collaborate with you or with CIRAD. So what will be the best approach to collaborations with CIRAD?
The first one, from Malaysia, first I think that our hub, our main contact point who is organizing relationships is the French embassy. So we are working closely with Angéline, and I think that the Malaysian French University Council is the main hub to get access to information. So we are also 2 staffs here based, and we have our regional office in Jakarta. So we can also help connecting these students, for example, with relevant teams and labs in our main campus in Montpellier. Or they can also try to apply to the program we are conducting here with our partners at University Putra Malaysia. But I think that the most immediate way to get access to information and connections is probably working with Angéline, which can organize the contact actually.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Jama. Thank you so much for the answer. So now, last but not least, I will move to our final presenter, Professor Daniel PERRET. So Professor Daniel PERRET is the sorry, just one moment. Yes, Professor Daniel PERRET is the researcher at the Ecole française d'Extrême-Orient. So he will be presenting to us about the Ecole française d'Extrême-Orient and Malaysia. So I will pass the panel to you, Professor PERRET, now. Yes, you should be able to share your screen now. Professor, sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you, mostly. So I will present the École française d'Extrême-Orient, or French School of Asian Studies, also known as EFEO, is a public institution under the French Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Innovation, and today partner of Paris Sciences et Lettres University. Founded in 1900, its mission is to study the classical civilization of Asia through the humanities and social sciences. Its network includes 18 permanent centers and branch offices from India to China and Japan. And covers most of Southeast Asia. This network allows its 37 research scholars to carry out their fieldwork while maintaining a network of local specialists and ASEANists from around the world. Interdisciplinary projects bring together leading scholars in the field of history, philology, archaeology, anthropology, and religious studies. To give an idea of the EFEO current activities, EFEO is in charge of several important international projects financed at the European or French level. For example, one project is a competing regional integrations in Southeast Asia, a PCRD, which brings together 70 researchers from 13 European and Southeast Asian institutions. 3 IRC, one on the LIDAR archaeological survey in Cambodia, one on pre-modern religious tradition in South Asia, one on the history of Hinduism in South and Southeast Asia. We have also EANR project, those funding a French agency. One example is a city architecture and urban planning in North Korea. Moreover, each year, EFAO provides field scholarships, 1 to 6 months long, as well as a doctoral contract and also postdoctoral contracts. With regard more specifically Malaysia, the EFAO opened a permanent center in Kuala Lumpur in 1988. Hosted by the Department of Museum of Malaysia until 2015, since January 2016, its office is located in the Faculty of Art and Social Sciences of the University of Malaya. The current research mission of the center, led by one researcher, who is also representative in Malaysia, is devoted to the history and archaeology of Malaysia. The EFAO activity in Kuala Lumpur also includes publishing in Malaysian or English of research in the humanities and social sciences conducted locally. Nearly 30 titles have been published so far, usually in cooperation with a local institution. These publications include translations of works of French scholars, as the center also aims to make known results of French research work on the region to the Malaysian public. The center co-organizes workshops, conferences, exhibitions, welcomes students, and regularly invites French researchers to present their work in front of Malaysian colleagues. The EFAO activities in Malaysia are currently based on two cooperation agreements. An agreement with the University of Malaya, which is the center's host and main partner, an agreement with the Department of Museum of the state of Sarawak. There are two ongoing research programs. The first is an urban history program in cooperation with the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences of the University of Malaya. This program was born out of the observation of the rarity of monographs on urban history published in Malaysia. One important city that has been particularly neglected is Johor Bahru, the capital of the southern state of Johor, which was founded in the mid-19th century and now has 500,000 inhabitants. Several researchers from the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences of the University of Malaya participate in this program. The second program is an archaeological program devoted to historical sites in the Sarawak River Delta, some 25 kilometers north of the capital Kuching. This program is carried out in cooperation with the Sarawak State Department of Museum. Rediscovered after the Second World War, a number of settlements and iron working sites in the Sarawak River Delta were excavated intermittently between 1947 and the mid-1960s. At the time, dated between the 7th and 14th century AD, they yielded numerous artifacts, especially Chinese ceramics, earthenware, and iron slag. In addition, an excavation conducted in 1966 brought to light a type of remains that is unique for the moment in the state, precisely a small Hindu-Buddhist stone structure provisionally dated between the 11th and 13th century AD. Despite the importance in understanding the ancient history of the region, these sites have been neglected by research for over 50 years. It is in this context that I have initiated a multidisciplinary study aimed at clarifying the chronology of the sites, their organization, the activities carried out there, as well as their relation with the outside world. This program currently benefits from the collaboration of French researchers in the field of archaeometallurgy, geomorphology, and Chinese ceramics. This program is conducted in parallel with the development by the state of Sarawak of an archaeological park in this area of the Delta. The first excavation, in cooperation with the Sarawak Department of Museum, were launched in June 2019 at one of the sites. This program represents an opportunity to train local staff, to welcome students, to contribute to the documentation of the information center being built near the site and enrich the archaeological collection of the Kuching Museum, which will move into new and vast premises by the end of the year. These initial fieldworks have received financial support from a funding program at the PSL University, as well as from the French Embassy in Malaysia. From this year, this archaeological project in Sarawak benefits from the financial support of the Consultative Commission for Archaeological Excavation Abroad under the French Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs, as well as from the French Embassy in Malaysia and from EFAO, of course. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor PERRET. So now for the Q&A sections, also just a quick reminder, all of the attendees, you can also drop your question. If you have any question specific to each professor or the doctor, you can actually specify in the questions, then I will just read it out for the panelists, okay? So Professor PERRET, the first question for you is there any institutional journal for research publication, and what is the scope for communication studies?
So we, in the slide, I'm showing we are publishing a bulletin every year, which is called the Bulletin de l'École française Extrême-Orient. So this is one kind of journal which kind of receive contribution regarding social sciences in Malaysia, but especially on history, on religious studies. So this is one possibility. So we have a specific journal in our institution.
Okay, that's good. So now let's move on to another questions. Another question is for Angéline. So at the end of, is there any opportunity of studies, collaboration, or scholarship if the researcher is doing a research on history of collaborations between Malaysia and France?
Yes, indeed. So first, there are opportunities through the program that has been launched by the Malaysian French University Center this year. So we offer some scholarship for spending 1 year in studying 1 year in France. So this is the first option. And history of France in Malaysia is of particular interest for the French government, because in 2021 it will be the 100 years of the French diplomacy. So the French government is launching specific events and specific calls for proposal for this particular type of research. So we are expecting some calls for proposal and for offering scholarships in the coming year. So this is something that has to be followed.
Okay, so now let's go to the Q&A. Thank you very much, Angéline, for sharing. So let's see, there are a few questions previously that also mentioned about funding and also for short-term funding, actually, like for, like, let's say these questions that PhD students in Malaysia who are seeking research attachment for 2 to 3 months, like other scholarship for this period?
Yes, again, we have some opportunities, and this time this is through the own budget of the embassy. So this is candidates have to apply to the embassy around September, because we need to plan the budget for the subsequent year in October, and we analyze the different applications, and we decide who will receive some specific support from the embassy. But in 2021, there will be a big focus on scholarship for this for the embassy budget. It is usually used for also support mobility, just invitation and missions for short-term stay, but we will emphasize the scholarship for study and research exchange in 2021.
Thank you very much. So also for another question for you, what's the research trend in France? Like whether researchers are interested in quantitative or qualitative research?
Well, your question is, are there qualitative or quantitative research in France?
I think the question is more into which are the trend right now in France. Would France be looking forward to have a much more qualitative or quantitative research?
It's both. Of course, everything has to rely on numbers. So quantitative is particularly important, but both research and both are implemented in research laboratories. We have all aspects are interested, and it's the research thematics are particularly broad. So everything is possible and everything is of interest as long as it's innovative, because the innovation and the excellence are really the criteria that has taken into consideration for research.
All right, thank you very much for the answer. So I think the next question here is for Professor Dr. TOUTAIN. This is for CNRS. So would you say that the procedure for other ASEAN country to propose research collaboration with CNRS would be the same as Malaysian?
Yeah, I think that the procedure to initiate partnerships to trigger collaboration is exactly the same everywhere. It relies really first on the connection between two researchers or two teams who really want to collaborate. And this is one more time, this is really a bottom-up approach. And it's similar everywhere in the world. It comes, it's the same process everywhere in the world.
All right, thank you very much. So I think the next question also goes back to Angéline. So this question, it's regarding is there like a procedure to apply for grant, or is there like a form where researcher could indicate which grant they're applying for with the embassy?
No, there is no form. It depends. For the scholarship programs that are supervised by MFUC, there is a specific application process. There are two scholarships. One is for master students through the Islamic Bank of Development, and the other one is a specific program of MFUC. So this is online. And for the specific budget of the embassy, this is really a bilateral discussion, and so we need to receive a description of the research project, description, CV of the candidate, this kind of information, and it's really on the bilateral basis.
Thank you very much. This is another questions I think is also for you, Angéline, because it is actually more current. It's asking about about the COVID during this COVID period. Will the mobility of grant be affected during this period? And if, let's say, the researcher would like to postpone their travel, or they are required to postpone their travel to France because of the COVID situation, would that also affect their grant being handled right now?
Yes, indeed. We have a constraint to use the budget before the end of a given year. This because it's an annual budget. So the budget that is not used before December 31st is lost. So indeed, it affects the grants, definitely. But just to specify that right now, researchers and students can enter France. They have a specific authorization to enter the country, so it's still possible to travel from Malaysia to France right now. So if some researchers are willing to travel there, they can travel to France.
All right, thank you very much. So we're moving to the next question. Is there other current ongoing collaborations between Malaysia and IRD? I think these questions would be for Sirad. Dr. Jama, I think, would you be able to answer that question?
With IRD,
okay.
There is, to my knowledge, there is no current collaboration here in Malaysia. So we have, we had collaboration in Indonesia. So there was a staff from IRD who was posted at the C4, the International Center for Forestry Research, but no collaboration, to my knowledge, nowadays in Malaysia with IRD.
Okay, so we'll be looking forward to that then. All right. So moving forward, right now there is actually sorry, Angéline, but I think there are a lot of questions actually coming for the embassy and also for you. So this another one is there any existing MOA between the French embassy with IIUM?
IIUM, specifically between the two institutions, no, but there are bilateral agreements between IIUM and some French universities. So, but not between the IIUM and the embassy.
Okay, so now at the end of this question, I think this is also for Angéline. So, what is the living cost in France and for individual and for someone with family? Is there like a range of grants offered by research institute? Like, would that be based on a single person or based on the whole family?
The scholarships are all based for a single person traveling to France, and the cost of living depends on where you are based. Obviously, it will not be the same cost in Paris and outside Paris. So I would say that for living correctly in Paris, you will need approximately 1,000 euros per month. To live correctly outside Paris, 700 euros per month are satisfactory.
Okay, thank you very much. So this question, I think I should use it to for Susan. Do you have any French research database to enable Malaysian researchers to find suitable research partner in France? I think this would be for Susan.
Yes, I think if you don't mind, mostly I would use this as my cue to introduce the audience to EURAXESS, because I think this is the platform that they could find a lot of the information that they were asking the panelists about. So if you don't mind, if I'll just share my screen right now. Don't worry, I'll do it myself. And I'll show you just a brief presentation about EURAXESS. Some of you have probably seen this yesterday. I'll just be brief. EURAXESS, I think, is the platform where you can find all of the information that you've been asking the panelists about. So this is a pan-European initiative that is dedicated to promoting researchers like yourselves that are interested in finding out what's happening in Europe, who is carrying out research in Europe, and where are the funding opportunities for me to participate in this research that is done in Europe. So what we have there is a jobs and funding portal. And in a minute, I will show you specifically the opportunities in France, because this is the country we're talking about today. So here you will find on a daily basis updated the open vacancies for researchers like yourselves that wish to spend some time in Europe. So not just research positions, but also, of course, fellowships, short-term and long-term. And these funding opportunities are provided both by the European Commission. So these are the Marie Curie fellowships that were mentioned by Angéline earlier today, the ERC fellowships, but of course all the national programs that countries such as France offer for international researchers to spend some time in France. We also have this partnering tool, and you are asking, how do I find potential collaborators in France? Well, this would be the tool that I suggest you try out first. This is basically a database. You would put down your details, be as specific as possible so that other members can find you. So you should put down what your research interests are, what you're looking for in a collaborator, and through this platform you create some visibility in Europe, and you can be found by others, but you of course can also look for potential collaborators in your area. We have a hosting database as well, which lists the offers by European universities and also international universities to look for postgrad students, to look for PhD students, to spend some time at their institution. So again, a wonderful resource for those of you that are trying to find a link to potential partners in Europe. We have lots of information, and again, in a minute, I'm going to show you Euraxis France. So for each of the 36 countries that are part of this Euraxis network, we have a dedicated page with information that is relevant to you as a mobile researcher about moving to Europe, moving to France, staying in that country. What do you need to know about immigration? What do you need to know about culture? I've seen there are some questions about, what's it like being a Muslim living in that particular country? Are my religious needs catered for? You will find information on the page already, or you can get in touch with one of the people that work at our over 600 service centers. So in France, I don't know how many there are, but there are plenty of service centers. They're usually located at the universities. Like we've heard from Mosley, he was working for Euraxis France at the University of Grenoble, or they will be with research institutions. And there are people that will answer your questions, be it about funding opportunities, or be it just what's it like finding accommodation in that particular city or town that you want to move to. This is me. I am based in Southeast Asia. I am in Singapore. And here is the QR code that will lead you to our website. So on our website, you will find information that's pertaining specifically to Europe-ASEAN relations. And of course, you will find information about our activities, such as, for example, this workshop, which is next week, I believe. This is part of our career development series, where we want to assist you in creating a global footprint for yourself and for your research. So this one is specifically dedicated to helping you communicate your research at conferences, for example, but also how to use social media tools to get higher visibility for your research output. And as I said, I want to briefly show you Euraxis France. Mosley, your microphone is on. Can you see the web page right now?
Yes.
Perfect. So I wanted to show you. So as I said, Euraxis has national portals, and I'm just clicking here on France. This will be the dedicated website just for information about research in France. And you can see here on the top tab, you'll find jobs, partnering, information. As I said, everything working in France, work permit, taxation, gender equality, career development, accommodation, etc. And also the French network. If I click on this, these are the Euraxis service centers that I've mentioned. So if you already know the institution that you're interested in, for example, the University of Toulouse, that you could contact the colleagues at that institution to find out whether they could help you identify a supervisor, or whether they have specific funding available at that institution for international researchers to spend some time there. And I just also wanted to just show you, I just looked these are the job opportunities currently specifically in France, so over 400, and of course in all disciplines and also at all levels of your career. So you see here just 2 examples: PhD fellowships, postdoc fellowships. So I just want to encourage you to use this tool. You need to, and I've stopped sharing my screen so we see each other again, you need to make a little effort, of course. We've heard today, yesterday, the day before, there are so many opportunities. And I've also noticed people are getting a little bit nervous. You will receive the slides, not immediately, because it takes a little time to upload it, but you will have the slides. The slides will contain the contact details of all the presenters. So if you want to follow up with them, you can get in touch with them. And please do use all this information that's there for you to make use of the opportunities. And I think with this is the end of the session. We haven't overrun too much, which is fabulous. And I just always want to close with what I heard from a presenter earlier this week, which is there are so many opportunities. You just always need to be ready to grab them. So with this, I think I'll thank all of you again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking your time to sharing your expertise with us. Thank you mostly for chairing the session. And I wish you all a wonderful Thursday and hope to see you soon on the Euraxis channel. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Okay, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye.